Now I will give a quick introduction and demonstration on how to use our CAP low coding development platform. The CAP stands for Collaborative Application of Platform. Okay, so by using this platform, the IT administrators can design the workflows and design the forms without the coding backgrounds. Okay, so in order to use this form, first of all, you need to give authorization to the certain admin user accounts. So first of all, let's log in with one of the accounts with this kind of a permission, and then we will be able to find this CAP option from our main menu, and then we will go to the App Design Center. From here, we can create new business applications, or we can simply open and edit one of the existing business applications. So from here, I will open this demonstration form, this application, and then the first step we gotta do is to create a new form. You see here we have mainly two different types of forms. First one is the process form, which is used for process approvals, and then we have the data form, which is used for data storage. We will discuss for this part later. So first of all, let's create a process form. Okay, now we're in this interface for form designing. First of all, we would give the form a name. For example, leave application. I will give you a demonstration like this. Leave application. Okay, and then from the left here, we can find the form layout. From here, we can design the forms grid. Okay, I can drag and drop the form table here. Here I can decide how many rows and how many columns are in this form. For example, like this. Okay, and after I created a new table, I can also insert new rows and new columns like this. You see, okay, can also delete rows and columns. Okay, and on the top here, you can find the styling options. For example, you can change the font styling, you can change the font size, you can bold, you can change the font color, you can change the alignment, and you can also give borders to the cells, and you can also change the background of the cells. Okay, so first of all, let's give this form a title. Let's merge some cells from the middle, and this is a leave application form, right? Okay, let's give it a change on the font size and font styling, and let's align it to the center. Then we can upload a logo for this form. And sometimes our customers would like to upload pictures as their logos in their form. So to upload logos, you can find a image show control from here, and once you drag and drop it here, you can upload an image file from your local PC, and this is my logo file. Okay, let's change the size of the logo. Okay, now I have finished creating the title of the form. Now let's design the grid. For example, like this. For example, if I merge some cells, and here I can type in the fields, the data fields, and the title for the data fields that I need to design for this form. For example, applicant, and this is title for the data field, and this is the field that I need the user of this form to do the input. Okay, so I will leave it blank for just a moment, and then we have application, like application date. Okay, let's insert more rows, and here maybe I put the applicant's department, and the job position, right? Okay, now we have finished designing a few cells and a few data fields here. I can give borders to this, and I can also change I can also change the background color of the titles so to make them more distinguishable, like this, right? And then what I need to do is to put in some controls in these data fields. Okay, so here we have a few number of different choices for you to make. Now here we have like text boxes, and we have numbers, we have text areas, we have checkbox, we have drop-down list and single select, and many other controls. Okay, so by putting these controls into the data fields, you are how can I say, you are designing how the users, when they are inputting the form, how they are inputting their information, how they are limited to only be able to input a specific type of data fields. Okay, like for example, if I put text field here, the user will only be able to input texts into this field. If I put numbers here, the user would only be able to input numbers in this column here. Okay, let's first delete these examples. So for applicant, we have a certain type of control which is called the account, because this account is linked to the system, to the collaborative system, to the OS system. Okay, so the user can only come from the system itself. Okay, then we have application date, which we can use a date control here. For department, we can choose a department control here, select department. And position, also we have a position here, position control here. Okay, so after we have dragged these controls in position, we can change some of the attributes regarding these kind of controls. For example, this one, the default name is account 1, but I can give a more specific name to this control, so we can, in the future, we can more clearly know what this data field is, right? So this is applicant, and this is date, this is department, and this is position. Okay, and for this data fields, because we already added the title here, so we can choose to hide the title bound to this control here. Now this looks more clear for us, right? Okay, now let's repeat the action and finish designing the form. Okay, for example, here we need to put like a type of leave. Start date, end date. Okay, and another one is the reason for leave. Okay, and this is days leave. Okay, let's quickly finish this form. For type of leave, we will give it a drop-down list. For days of leave, I will give it a number. For start date and end date, I will give both of them dates. And the reason of leave, I will give it text area. Okay. Type of leave, days of leave, start date and end date, reason for leave. Okay, now here you see, here's a little bit the special case here, because for type of leave we choose the drop-down list. As the drop-down list, we have to also design the options for this drop-down list. Okay, in order to design this option for the drop-down list, we have to bind an enumeration. So here's how you design an enumeration. We can go back to the App Design Center, and we can find the basic data here. And from here we can create new enumerations. Okay, I will create a new enumeration as how can I say, leave type. Okay, and then I will add options under this leave type, like annual leave, for example, and maybe sick leave. Okay, and maybe unpaid leave. Okay, let's just give it these three as an example here. And after I have finished adding these options for leave type, I will go back to my form settings. I will click on this type of leave drop-down list, and then I will find the bind enumeration option here and click. Okay, and then I will be able to find my leave type and click OK to bind it. Okay, so now I have designed the type of leave options here inside this data field. Okay, and then next what I will teach you is how to do some calculation regarding different how can I say, data fields, because sometimes the data fields are calculated by the system automatically instead of manual input, right? For example, you see here department and position can be related to the applicant itself. So you don't have to every time input the department and position by yourself manually. In order to achieve the automation for these data fields, I will show you how. Okay, so first of all, you single click on the data field, and here you can find an option called the data relation. Let's check the checkbox. Okay, and here, once you have checked the checkbox, you'll be given two options here. First one is you need to choose the related object. Here it will give you the form will automatically give you options like the available ones. In this case, there's only the applicant where you can choose from. Okay, by choosing the applicant and defining the related attributes as the departments, it means for this department field, you will search for the applicant's account. Okay, and then automatically generate the department according to the applicant's account. Okay, the same goes for the position. We will check this box here and choose applicant and main post name as the attributes. Okay, so now this is one of the types of automation, automatically generating the data fields. This is option 1. We also have option 2, for example, like the days of leave. Okay, let's imagine this scenario where people apply for leave. They would input the start date and end date of their leave. So the system can, according to the start date and end date, the system can automatically calculate how many days of leave the applicant is asking for, right? So here is a scenario that we can use a calculation to achieve this. Okay, so to configure a calculation, we can click on the days of leave data field, and here we can find the option for calculation. We can simply click on it. Okay, and here's many options. I will give you a quick demonstration on how to achieve the scenario I just introduced. Okay, so for this one, we will choose the deferred date. We will choose the deferred date option, and from here I will choose the end date to minus the start date. Okay, we can also, in accordance with the working days, we can also check this option here and click OK and OK again. So now this formula is set. Okay, we can click to verify the calculation, the formula again. Okay, like this. Okay. Okay, for the other ones, we would like the initiator or the requester to input by themselves. So let's finish the work. Let's hide the title. And pretty much now we have finished designing a very simple leave application form interface from here. Okay. Let's click on save to save what we have done for now. Okay, next I will show you how to add validation rules to the form. I'll give you two very simple scenarios as demonstration. First, let's go to the form attributes, and then we can find the validation option here. Click on it and click create new validation rules. Okay, so the first validation rule, let's create a rule to check the validation of the date that we input. For example, date check. Okay, and then we need to design the formula. Here I want to make sure the end date is later than the start date that the user input, right? So I will double click to input the end date and give it and it's greater than the start date. It's later than the start date, and click OK. Here's our check rule. Here is our formula. And then I can also specify a notice message for the user when the system checks this validation rule and found out it's wrong. It will give the user a notice message. For example, here we can input like your end date is not later than the start date. Please modify. Okay, and click OK. Now we have, simple as that, we have finished creating our first rule. And a second rule, for example, we can limit the days of leave the requester is asking for. So days of leave. Okay, so in formula we can put we can find the days of leave data field, double click on it, and we can set the limitation that this one must be less than, for example, 5 days. Okay, so which means our system will limit the number of days the requester can ask for, and this is only they can ask for 5 days of leave. Okay, so if they ask for leave which is more than 5 days, they will receive a message from the system. We can put like your leave cannot be more than 5 days. Please modify. Please modify. Okay. Okay. So this is how we add validation rules in the form. Okay, next we will move on to the operation settings. We can find the operation settings from the top menu here. Just click on it and we will see this interface. From this interface, we will be able to decide each of the user who are involved in the workflow are given which kind of access to modify or just browse certain data fields. Okay, for example, you see now by default, the system will provide us with 3 initial operations. First one is fill in, the second one is approve, third one is display. Okay, so the fill in is by default is given to the user when he is filling a new form, and he will be given this access. Okay, so the approve operation is given to those who are in the middle of the workflow, who are given the approval of the workflow. So for the display means that after approval, when the user wants to get back and see the form again, he will be given the display operation access. Okay, so these 3 are the default ones. Actually, we can also create our own customized ones. Okay, so let's check them one by one. So first, in fill in, for example, we can see here we are given by the system, they are giving us a list of all the data fields we have created inside the form. So here we can decide for each field if we can allow the user to edit this field or not, right? So here we have the options for just browse. We have the options for the user to be able to edit the data fields. We can also choose to hide the data field. So hidden and hide the data field means if you choose, for example, applicant to be hidden, the user, when he is using this access authorization to open the form, he will not be able to see the data within the applicant's data field. Okay. And we also have required checkbox. So this checkbox means if you check this checkbox, it means like, for example, if we check date and applicant, so these two data fields will be required or mandatory, which means when the user is filling the form, he must give data, he must put data inside these two data fields. Otherwise, the system will not allow the user to submit the form. Okay. So download is designed for the attachments control. When you have an attachment control, you can choose to allow the user to download the attachments inside, or you can choose not allow the users to download. Okay, and also we can give initial values to each of the data fields. Okay, so here is a scenario where, for example, like applicants is apparently can be generated by the system automatically according to the login user, right? So let's say how to configure this. Okay, I will show you. Just then we single click on the initial value of the applicant, and here instead of manually we choose the variable, and here is a current user ID option. We choose it, and then click OK. So by doing this kind of operation, it means we want the system to automatically put the login user's name in the applicant's data field. Okay, so in this case, we want to not give the user edit access. So let's put it browse, right? So date is the same, similar as applicant. We don't want the user to manually change it. We want the system to automatically generate according to the current date. So we find the initial values, and we choose system date to be the initial value and click OK. Okay. So for development, if you remember, sometime earlier, I put it related to the applicant. So also, we do not have to ask for the user to put this data field manually. Position is the same, and type of leave we want him to do input, right? So we put edit access here, and this is mandatory. Days of leave, this one is calculated by the system, remember? So we put browse, and start date and end date, of course, they are mandatory. Reason for leave, also mandatory. Okay, now, so this is how we configure a form filling operations access. After we have finished defining the access for each of the data fields, we can click Save. Here we have finished editing one of the data fields. And by repeating this action, we can define multiple operation access authorizations. And we can later in the process designing step, we can bind these operations to certain workflow approval nodes to allow different users, give different users different access to the data fields, if you get my point. Now finally, we can move on to the process settings. We can find the process setting on the top menu here. And actually for with one form, we can create multiple approval processes. So here I will create one workflow as an example. Let's click New. Here we can give the workflow template a name, for example, leave application form. And here are a lot of attributes and settings, which is not really important today, so I will skip most of them. But one of them is very important, which is the authorization. So the authorization decides which of the users or which of the departments are allowed to use this leave application form. So this must be configured every time we do the process making. We can set the permission authorization here, and you will see a pop-up window like this. Here are multiple options that you can give authorizations to. For example, we can give authorization to certain personnels. We can also give authorization to whole departments like this. We can also give permission according to how can I say, according to positions. Like for example, we can give permission to HR managers or HR specialists or logistic managers. And here on the right is the list of permissions that I have given. Okay, and then click OK to save. In this way, we are giving authorization of this template to these multiple departments and positions. So all the users under these departments and under these positions are allowed to use this form template, are allowed to use the leave application form in the system. Okay, so for others who do not have authorizations, they will not be able to see this leave application form from their system. Okay, so for the rest of the operations, the settings, they are not really important. So today we will just skip them and let's move on to the actual process making. Okay, so here's the user interface for process making. Here is what you see and it's what you will get. Our approval process is really simple to create. First of all, when by default, you will only see an initiator in the process flow. What we need to do is simply add one process node after another. It's pretty simple and straightforward. We can click on the initiator and click add to add new approval nodes. And similar as the operation that I was just given approval authorization back then, here are multiple options for you to add process nodes. For example, I can choose I can choose specific personnel. So we can also choose departments to be the approval nodes. And by clicking OK, the system will add the approvers inside the workflow. So what I just showed you is a sequential workflow. We can also add multiple approvals in a concurrent mode. For example, if I add HR departments as approval node, I also add production department as approval nodes. If I want these two departments to do the evaluation of the process at the same time, I can choose the concurrent approval mode. And when we click OK, you will see two different branches splitting from this point. Which means after the IT department's approved, the HR department and the production department will receive the request simultaneously, and they will give the approval in a concurrent mode. Okay, and also only after both of these two departments approve the process, it will continue. Then will it continue, right? And another thing is that regarding this kind of branch approval mode, we can also add conditions for the system to automatically decide to go to which branch. Because sometimes we do not want both. Sometimes we would have to set some conditions for the workflow, right? I will give you a scenario here. For example, like regarding this leave application, if we will use the, how can I say, we will use the days of leave as a threshold. For example, if the days of leave is more than 5 days, maybe we will raise this request to higher management for approval. But if the days of leave is less than 5 days, maybe we will just skip the higher management approval. So how to realize this kind of scenario? I will show you. Okay, so in this kind of scenario, let's say if we have more than 5 days leave being asked, I will involve the GM's office for approval. But if not, I will leave it as a blank node. Here we can find the blank node from here. And I'll put them as concurrent to create a branch workflow, right? And on the GM's office branch, I will click on the branch and here's the auto condition option, click on it, and we can set a condition for this branch. Okay, and we switch to the form condition and then find the fields of days of leave. Double click to include this one, and when it's more than 5 days, I click OK. So you see, I set a condition for this branch, which is days of leave is more than 5 days, which means whenever the user requested for more than 5 days of leave, the system will automatically go to this branch, which includes the GM's office for approval, right? And for the other one, we do the opposite of the condition to make sure we choose the option for exclusive branch, which means if the condition doesn't meet here, the system will automatically go to the other branch, which is a blank node. So in this case, we are skipping the GM's office approval if the days of leave is less than 5 days. Okay, so this is a quick example on how you create a workflow. How you create a workflow. So as you can see, the operations are pretty simple and straightforward, and what you design is actually what you get. Okay, let's save the process and finish the designing. Here we click save again. Now we have finished creating our first form. So by utilizing and repeating the basic operations that I have just demonstrated just now, we can create a relatively more complicated form. For example, the rotation form that we have created for you as the POC demonstration, right? And let's say in the future, if you want to do maintenance work, you want to change some data fields, or you want to change the layout of the form, you can simply find the form and click edit, and we will go into this kind of form editing interface here, so you can change the form layout. You can, how can I say, you can change the form layout, you can add new data fields, you can delete data fields, you can change the calculation formulas. It's just very simple to use. For example, I can insert a new row below and add some new data fields like this. For example, new field 1 and new field 2, right? So just as same as designing the form for the first time, I choose the correct control type here and drag them into position. This is how I do the maintenance and do the modifying of the form. And same goes for the process making. We simply find the process and we can edit the process in this interface. For example, we can replace the current existing approval nodes, like you can click on replace. Currently, for example, here's a test engineer. We can replace the process node to a certain person, or I can replace it to be the IT department's approval, or I can choose the IT manager for the approval, right? I can also add new approval nodes by clicking on it like this. Okay, pretty simple, right? So next I will show you some advanced skills for creating data links or data mapping between different forms. So in this POC demonstration scenario, we have the rotation request form, right? And we also have the rotation change request form. In order for us to be able to read data in the rotation change request, we have to first save the rotation request data to the rotation data form. So we have already created this data form in advance, and then we can switch from the view tab to the business tab, and then we can drag the two forms together, and you will be able to see a link between the rotation form and the rotation data form. So from here, we can create the data mapping. Okay, so let's create a new data mapping rule. Here are two options. Let's first do a new trigger. Okay, let's create a new trigger. First, let's give the trigger a name, for example, trigger data storage. And then we need to choose a trigger point. So in this case, I will just follow the default trigger point, which is the workflow finished. Well, so when the workflow finished, we will trigger this data mapping. Okay, and then we can find a list of all the data fields from each of these two forms, the rotation and the rotation data form. We simply have to choose which of the data fields we want to do the mapping. For example, if I want to map the application date from the rotation form to the rotation data form. Okay, so here's a small tip. If the system can find exact same how can I say exact same data fields with the same data field name, the system will automatically choose the correct data field for you. But of course, you can also manually choose to map the data to different data fields. Okay. We can also click the one key mapping, so the system will find all the data fields with the same name from the two different forms and automatically map them together. So in this way, we have created a trigger data mapping after the rotation request is approved. Let's click Save. First of all, this is a demo. Let's click Save. Oh, sorry. Okay. Okay, so this is how you create a trigger point. And another type of data mapping is the relation. Okay, so the relation can be used in a scenario where we want to read data from the rotation change form. You see, each time we open a rotation change form, we need to read the data from the requester's previous rotation requests, right? So how do we achieve this? It's the same. We just can go to the business tab. So in this case, we want to read the data from the rotation data form. So we drag the rotation data form and the rotation change form together. And let's create a relation between these two forms. Let's create a new relation. Okay, this is query data from data form. Okay, here are three different options. We can choose manual relation. We can also choose to automatically read the data according to certain rules. We can also choose to increase rows. Okay, in this case, we will choose the automatically to map the data according to certain relation conditions. Okay, if we choose the automatic option, here you will be able to see this section as the relation condition. Here we will need to set the condition, how we need to do the data mapping. The precondition for the data mapping. So in this case, we can choose the serial number. We can choose to match the serial number between the rotation change form and the rotation data form. Okay, and then it's very similar to the trigger settings. We simply choose which data fields, how to map the data fields from the rotation data form to the rotation change form. Okay, we can also simply choose the one key mapping in the case that you have put every data fields with the same name from the two different tables. Okay, so this is how we create the data mapping between different forms. So I believe in the later of the video explanation, where we will demonstrate to you with real actual end user using scenarios, you will find it more easy to understand. Okay, So thank you for watching this video.